afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Shailendra Lalwani, and I'm the head of the Department of Liver Transplant and HPV Surgery in Manipal Hospital, Dwarka. I'll be presenting today on liver transplant in India. Coming to the topic, first liver transplant was attempted by Sir Thomas Stargell in USA, and it was done in 1963. And first successful full transplant was done by Stargell only in 1967. But it was only after 1980, after the introduction of cyclosporin and UW solution and veno-venous bypass, liver transplant became the reality. And it has emerged as definitive therapy for end-stage liver disease in 1983 only. So, liver transplant in India was actually a dream since 1988. And there was actually a lot of ifs and buts because there was no expertise in India at that time. But the first discussion, if you see, was started in 1988, and it was started by NDTV in the program called World This Week. This was the first debate in 1998. They showed the program in which they showed that this is the patient from India who came to AIIMS with chronic liver disease. And at that time, facility was not available, so she died actually after 1 month. At the same time, if you see, patient was of chronic liver disease in London, was actually undergoing liver transplant, and they were living actually normal life. So in 1988 in India, situation was that every yearly there were around 30,000 deaths because of liver failure, and in the Western countries on the same time they were doing 4,500 liver transplant in a year in 120 centers. Success rate was around 80%, and 5-year survival was 70%. So it was only in 1989 when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. He raised this question in the parliament that why we are not doing this liver and heart transplant. So committee was formed in 1990, and they found some problems. These problems were there was no brain death law, expertise was not available, there were widespread trades in the kidney transplant, and the cost of liver and heart transplant was enormous in Western countries. So the first step was to educate the public. So in 1990, conferences were conducted in every part of country, including Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, to increase the awareness of liver transplant and heart transplant in India. But still the problems were there. Media was not very positive about this. Cost was very high. Lot of blood products were required for single case of heart and liver transplant. And it was not focus of the hospital act. It was not a profit making surgery. And above all, diversion of the healthcare funds were very difficult because at that time India was actually struggling with some common disease like malaria. So it was actually very difficult at that time. It was just like to put a CT scanner in the malarial swamp. So, but there were some benefits of transplant also. We can save young and productive life. We would be it would be available at lower cost in India. At that time, cost in US was 80 lakhs, and in India it was started with 20 lakhs only. And it would have been a national pride, and foreign dependence would have been ended once it started in India. So second step was to make the law for brain death. So in 1991, Singhvi Committee was formulated to concept and give the definition of brain death, and to see the requirement and implication of brain death law, and to safeguard against its misuse also. In 1992, this bill was put in Rajya Sabha. It was cleared in Rajya Sabha, then Lok Sabha, and then it went to selection committee. And finally, in 1994, bill was passed. So in 1995, there was organ transplantation was a law actually in form of Transplantation of Human Organ Act. They defined the criteria for the brain death, and it was only with clinical test, but it required 4 doctors at a time, and they'll examine patient twice at a 6 hours gap. After that only they could have declared the brain death in the hospital. Authorization committee was formed for different hospital, which will verify the document and verify the emotional attachment of the donor and the recipient. So trade was declared as illegal and non-cognizable offense in 1995. Third step was the initial procedures. So because no one will be actually ready for the first transplant, but it was started at least in some public hospitals. First liver heart transplant was done in 1994 in AIIMS, and in 1995 first liver transplant was done in Apollo Hospital, Chennai. But the team who performed the transplant came from Hong Kong. It was not successful. In 1996, AIIMS attempted the transplant. It was again unsuccessful. In 1998, again Apollo Hospital, Chennai did the deceased donor liver transplant, which was the first successful transplant of India. First living donor liver transplant was attempted by Apollo Hospital, Delhi in 1998, and this was also successful. But if you see, the first program of liver transplant came from Gangaram Hospital, though the initial results was not that great. So fourth step was to sustain the program. Once you start the program, it's definitely important to sustain these programs, because initial, especially when results are not that great initially, and hospitals were actually doing initially opposing this program because of poor results. So it was very difficult to sustain, but finally we actually were able to sustain these programs. And if you see in 2017, from journey from 1998 to 2017, up to 2017 in India, we have done 7,400 liver transplants. If you see the situation in 2019, we have 76 centers who are doing transplants, liver transplants. And in 2018, total number of transplants performed were 1,497, and in 2019 it was 1,454. But the problems were, it was mainly in private sector. It was mostly living donor programs, and most of these, about 65% of these transplants were happened in Delhi. Early survival at different centers were from 0% to 94%. This is the distribution of transplant centers all over India. Majority are in Delhi, Chennai, and Maharashtra. So finally, the liver transplant in India became the pride of Indian medicines, and today we are number 2 in the whole world in living donor liver transplant. So coming to the transplant which is needed in end-stage liver disease, patient with abnormal liver function who develop decompensation or complications are considered to have end-stage liver disease. End-stage liver disease considered equivalent to chronic liver failure. End-stage liver disease is the 12th leading cause of death for adults in USA. In 2004, 27,013 deaths reported in US because of end-stage liver disease. That was 1.1% of the total deaths in US in that year. India needs around 27,000 transplants per year for end-stage liver disease, but right now we are doing around 1,500 transplants in a year only. If you see worldwide, hepatitis C is the most common cause of chronic liver disease, but there is some difference in the eastern and western countries. If you see in West, hepatitis C is the most common disease, and in eastern countries, hepatitis B is the most common disease. But alcoholic liver disease and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease are upcoming like endemic in even eastern and western both countries. Viral hepatitis being the most common cause of end-stage liver disease. A and E usually causes acute liver failure. E is more common with pregnant ladies only, and B and C causes mostly chronic liver disease. For hepatitis B and C, if you see, treatment is available and effective. If it is treated on time, cure is very well possible. After hepatitis B and C, alcoholic liver disease are is the common cause of actually chronic liver disease. Alcoholism is very common in India. It's actually very prevalent in socio and low and high socio-economic status. Even Meena Kumari, if you see, was died because of chronic liver disease because of alcoholic cirrhosis. One study has shown that alcohol consumption is 3 times more common in youngsters who watch the Bollywood movies as compared to those who don't watch. So you can see the influence of alcohol in Bollywood also. So alcoholic liver cirrhosis has 3 stages. First is hepatic steatosis, which is reversible. Second is alcoholic hepatitis, which is also reversible if someone can stop the alcohol intake. But once they are in cirrhotic stage, it is irreversible. After alcoholic liver disease, obesity is a common problem worldwide nowadays, and approximately 10 to 20% of these fatty patients will ultimately develop liver cirrhosis within 5 years, and 12.8% of these cirrhotic patients will develop ultimately hepatocellular carcinoma, for which they'll need transplant. So early symptoms can be jaundice, anorexia, early easy fatigability, nausea and vomiting, and late symptoms are bloody vomiting, hematemesis, ascites, pedal edema, and hepatic encephalopathy. Complications of cirrhosis can be intractable ascites, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, chronic hepatic encephalopathy, recurrent GI bleed, hepatorenal syndrome, and hepatopulmonary syndromes. So what is the prognosis in patients who develop cirrhosis? If you see patient with decompensated cirrhosis, the life span will be around 2 years. Within 2 years, they'll die if they'll not undergo liver transplant or treatment. If they have hepatopulmonary syndrome, they'll live for 10 months only. If they develop SBP, the survival is around 9 months. If they develop hepatopulmonary syndrome, hepatorenal syndrome, they'll survive around 6 months only. So when is the exact time for referring them for transplant? See, if a patient is too well, he should not be transplanted. Likewise, if a transplant patient is too sick, he should not be transplanted because it is associated with poor outcome. So the liver transplant should be performed when the patient is expected to have greater survival with a liver transplant than without liver transplant. So for that, for the deciding of the referral time, worldwide we use these 2 criteria. One is Child-Pugh scoring, second is model for end stage liver disease scoring system. So CTP is a complicated scoring system which includes 5 factors, that is hepatic encephalopathy, ascites, albumin, bilirubin, and INR. If patient is in child C category, means the score is more than 10, that is the indication for referring him for liver transplant. Similarly, model for end stage liver disease uses serum bilirubin, INR, and serum creatinine. And when MELD score is 14, he is the candidate for at least registration for liver transplant. These patients should be referred on time for liver transplant. So liver transplantation is a life-saving procedure for end-stage liver disease and acute liver failure. And currently, if you see 1 year patient survival rate is around 85 to 90%, and 5-year survival rate is around 75%. These are the few famous celebrities who underwent liver transplant. Steve Jobs underwent Whipple's in 2004. After that, he developed neuroendocrinal tumor secondaries in liver. For that, he underwent transplant. He survived for around 3-4 years after transplant, then he died. Second one is Mr. Eric Abidal he's a defender from Barcelona. He developed hepatocellular carcinoma. He underwent resection, but he again developed cancer in the remnant liver, so he underwent salvage liver transplant in 2012. So from where the graft will come? These can be from deceased donor or from living donor. Deceased donor means a patient who is brain dead. That means he can't survive even his heart if his heart is functioning. These patients are actually candidates for deceased donation. Second option is living donor liver transplant, in which relative from the family donate his part of liver. See, this is the deceased donor program in which complete liver of the donor is removed from the body and it is implanted in the liver cirrhosis patient after the removal of cirrhotic liver. Similarly, in living donor transplant, we normally take the part of the liver from the donor and it is implanted in the patient after removal of the cirrhotic liver. So indications of transplant is any decompensation with cirrhosis in form of hepatic encephalopathy, ascites, varicose bleed, or spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, or side effect of liver disease like hepatopulmonary syndrome, development of hepatocellular carcinoma, muscle wasting, or increased osteopenia. These are the indications for transplant and end-stage liver disease. So what are the contraindications? These are absolute contraindication like active infection, patient with SBP, pulmonary hypertension, extrahepatic malignancy, active alcoholism, active substance abuse, or non-compliances. Relative contraindications are multi-organ liver failure, chronic renal failure, large HCCs, although in HCC now criteria has been changed, so large HCC it's not the contraindication. One other relative contraindication is HIV, but that is again controversial because we have done transplants in HIV patients also, and they are doing good since last 3 years. Fulminant hepatic failure, in which actually there is rapid worsening of the liver function. This is the one of the common indication of liver transplant also. And in these patients, there is no pre-existing liver disease, and they develop rapid dysfunction of the liver in form of hepatic encephalopathy, jaundice, and coagulopathy. Once these patients with acute liver failure or fulminant hepatic failure meet the King's College criteria, they need to undergo transplantation as soon as possible. And mortality without transplant in these patients are around 90%, and causes being liver failure, sepsis, and multi-organ failure. So patient with fulminant hepatic failure should be referred to a center where transplant facility is available and transplant can be offered to these patients. So who are the good candidates for donation? These are individuals who are between 18 to 55 years of age, and they have compatible blood group with recipient. They are healthy and without any liver disease. There is no significant, they are not actually significantly overweight. Their BMI should be less than 30. Ideal is between 20 to 25, but up to 30 we can take them as a donor if other things are okay. So they can provide the adequate graft size also. So volumetry and liver anatomy is again important in these donors. After blood group matching and baseline testing, we do normally CT volumetry of this liver donors. So it is very important part of liver transplant workup. In volumetry, we assess the volume of the donors right and left lobe, and whatever is feasible according to the GRWR and remnant and anatomy we take. There can be anatomical variation of hepatic artery. We see it regularly, but the only contraindication when contralateral lobe is supplied by the other artery from the other lobe, or there is intrahepatic supply which is coming from the other lobe. These are the contraindications. Portal vein variation again is very common. The only contraindication is type D anatomy, in which anterior sector is being supplied by the left portal vein. Similarly, in biliary tree, we see a lot of variation, but nowadays, if you see, there is biliary variation is not the contraindication for taking him as a donor. There can be, we can actually reconstruct 1, 2, 3, 4 even ducts also in recipient. Anatomical variation again is common in hepatic vein, but it only changes the plan of reconstruction, nothing else. This is after implantation. How does it look like? Right hepatic vein is in this patient. If you see, right hepatic vein is anastomosed to the right hepatic vein only. Inferior hepatic vein is anastomosed to the MHA extension to IVC, and right portal vein to the main portal vein, right hepatic artery to the right hepatic artery. Bile duct can be reconstructed with the common hepatic duct and Roux and Y hepaticojejunos. So after transplant, these patients are shifted to normally ICU. Their liver functions are initially monitored twice a day. Fibrinogen level is very important actually marker for detecting the early dysfunction of the graft. Gradually, the AST, ALT, bilirubin, and prothrombin time will normalize within next 5 days. Early elevation of angine is common, but it will follow by the quick normalization in next 3-4 days. Early thrombocytopenia is common. It will decrease in first week, but they'll start increasing in second week. We do ultrasound Doppler intraoperatively and daily until post-op day 5 to see the velocity and restrictive index of hepatic artery and portal vein and hepatic venous flow. We monitor the immunosuppression level, which usually start from the it started actually intraoperatively, but the monitoring is done once tacrolimus is started. So complications of transplant can be early and late. Early complications are primary graft failure, vascular complication, infections, and acute rejections. Most of these can be managed with antibiotics, increasing the dose of immunosuppression, or re-exploration if there is any thrombosis of the vessels. Late complications are infection, chronic rejection, biliary complication, and post-transplant lymphoproliferative disorders. But as I told you initially, 5-year survival is 75% even after these complications. So for 1-year survival is around 89 to 94% worldwide, and 75% 5-year survival is also worldwide. So this is the experience of our team. We are doing transplants since a decade. We have done more than 1800 transplants. Our overall success rate is 94%. Emergency transplant for acute liver failure, our survival is 92%. 1-year success rate is 91%, and 3-year survival is around 86%. We have done 17 combined liver kidney transplants, 5 dual lobe transplants, and 4 swap series also, in which actually we operate 2 patients simultaneously, but in their family they don't have matching donors, so they swap their donors with other family. So these are our achievements. We have done pediatric transplant in less than 10 kg child, liver transplant in the smallest waiting child in India, and liver transplant in a child with hemiparesis, which was first in India. We have done 5 dual lobe transplant, which is actually a good number. We have done retransplant in a children. We have done living donor liver transplant in a strongly positive cross-match patient, because in these patients rejection rate is very high. We have done ABO incompatible transplant where blood group doesn't match. These patients will require very extensive pre-op preparation, and the outcome is not as good as compatible transplant. But this patient didn't had any option, so we went ahead, and this patient is doing well. Transplant in HIV positive patient, we have done transplant with removal of the cardiac tumor simultaneously. We have done, this was the first in the world. This is the pictures of the dual lobe transplants. This is again pediatric liver transplant. In this size of the graft was actually big as compared to what was required in the pediatric patient. So we reduced it in situ. This is after reduction of the graft, and this is how does it look after the reduction. And this is the same graft after the implantation, and this is the final view after completing the surgery before closing. So we believe in cosmetic donor surgery. You can see our few donors. We actually are believer of a small incision donor hepatectomy. So nowadays we are actually offering laparoscopic donor hepatectomy and robotic donor hepatectomy also. You can see one of this, our Mongolian donor is a supermodel in her own country, even after donation. And the second donor is from India. You can see his change in his health. Actually, he is now having 6 packs abs with good muscular body. And at the time of transplant, you can see how lean and thin he was. So there is no contraindication that he cannot do anything in future. They can live normal life. So this is the actually myths that donor cannot do or he'll have some problem. So you can see the results of these donors. So to summarize, liver transplant in India is very popular nowadays. We are number 2 in the world. India is dominant in LDLT. After Korea, we are the number 2 country who is actually doing so much living donor liver transplants. This is the good management options for end stage liver disease. And liver transplant has low complication rate and good survival rate. It improves the quality of life, and the cost is being reduced day by day. So we have the cheapest liver transplant program, one of the cheapest liver transplant program in India. But still the concerns are living donor liver transplant is dominant. Ideally, it should be deceased donor. But if you see in North India, donation rate is not that high. So we still depend on the living donor liver transplant. And private sector is too dominant, but we have to increase the public awareness that we can do transplant with a good success rate. Thanks.